I'll have to tune in watching the hockey guy holding Gensler accountable. That will be much needed entertainment and critical policy. Devastation that they've done to so many markets. Crypto is one of, unfortunately, many markets that they've gone after. This week is our last week in session before the election, but it is a very busy week, as you can see from the schedule. A lot of different bills being brought to the floor. Scott Fitzgerald just talked about one of them that's so important. You know, we've seen crime grow in our communities. We've seen these funds like the Minnesota Freedom Fund that are designed to help get criminals out of jail. And of course, Kamala Harris was there front and center raising millions of dollars for that fund. And what did it do? It helped get people out of jail who were who were out there in the middle of the, what they called the summer of love, who were attacking police officers, burning down police stations, other violent crimes where she was leading the charge to get them out of jail, the criminals, not protect the police officers. In fact, she's made public statements over the last few years criticizing the idea of adding more police to communities. And yet when you look at some of the cities that have the worst crime, who initially went down the failed road of defunding the police and then saw the devastation it caused in their communities, they're trying to hire more police officers now. And they're struggling to do it because they at least finally recognize they made a mistake. But once you taint that office by showing a community that the leadership of a city doesn't support the police will go elsewhere. Good existing police officers go to other departments. Young people who want a career in law enforcement are not going to go to a place where it's so volatile that they know that the leadership of that community doesn't have their back. So they go to other places where they know that the local community will have their back. And so that is the devastation of, that kind of attitude of defunding police, demonizing police that people like Kamala Harris have supported over the years. When we leave here to go across the country in October, and as much as we're going to miss you in this venue, maybe we'll come back every week, Mike. I don't know. We'll, do that once a week and see who shows up. But more than likely that won't happen. But we will see you out on the road if you're there. But when you go to swing districts where a lot of us will be, you see the same thing playing out in every community, whether it's a swing state like Pennsylvania, where it just was last week, or whether it's a community in California where they've got swing districts. You're hearing people express the same frustration with the Biden-Harris administration. The open border is still the top issue they bring up, and they're furious about it. And yet Kamala continues to do nothing while she's over there in the White House. She could go walk in the White House today and ask the president to reverse his policies that opened up the border, but she won't, because she wants an open border. She's wanted that open border all her life. Again, she's on video talking about how she wants to legalize people who come here illegally. And then when she tries to express, well, maybe I'm now for a secure border, and she's pressed on it, she says, my values haven't changed. Her values are far left liberal. They've been that way her whole life. She wants to ban fracking. She hasn't changed her views on that. She wants to have an open border. Her views haven't changed on that either. You've seen her radical views. She cast a tie-breaking vote, as our conference chair, Elise, just talked about, to create the inflation that I hear about in every community I go to. Higher costs at the grocery store, higher costs at the gas station. Those are a direct result of not just the Biden administration's policies, but Kamala Harris's vote. And I'm not talking about in the Senate, where she might have been with 60 other people. I'm talking about Kamala Harris's vote when it was a 50-50 tie. And it could have gone down with her vote, and we could have had lower inflation with her vote, but instead she used her vote to raise inflation. Her tie-breaking vote that jacked up the inflation that's crushing low and middle income families today. Her tie-breaking vote, Kamala Harris, was the vote that doubled the size of the IRS. And now some of those new agents that they've hired are going after the waiters and waitresses, making them pay higher taxes on tips. And then she claims that she wants to get rid of the tax on tips, yet she sicked an army of new IRS agents after those very same waiters and waitresses. So what she's done has consequences. We're going to be talking about this contrast because Donald Trump wants lower tax rates. Donald Trump wants to secure our border, and he did it before. Donald Trump wants sound tax policy where lower and middle income families can actually benefit from the growth that comes with a healthy economy. Unfortunately, we don't have that today, but we had it when Donald Trump was president of the United States last time. And so when you look at all of those things, and not to mention, of course, he's always supported our men and women in uniform, and he'll continue to do that again. He'll stand up to the bad guys around the world. And right now, America is letting the bad guys around the world run roughshod over our allies and doing harm to America as well with no consequence. All that will change if we get President Trump back in office. And that contrast, I think, is going to be sharply shown through the month of October leading into the election November 5th. We're also going to vote today or tomorrow on the CR. And, this is always a tough negotiation. The Senate wanted to try to spend more money, and our speaker stood up to the Senate and said, no, we're not going to do that. They wanted to play this Christmas Eve omni game that they used to play, having an omnibus dropped on Christmas Eve, and nobody's read the bill, and it just gets voted on, and everybody leaves town. We said no to that last year. And Mike Johnson, as Speaker, is saying no to that again this year, which is so important to say, we're going to change the way Washington works. We passed over 70% of the spending bills out of the House. The Senate has passed zero, not a single bill out of the Senate. And so how do you have a negotiation when one side refuses to do their job? And so we're going to continue to at least do our job, and that starts tomorrow on the CR. And with that, I'll turn it over to the Speaker of the House.